Hi, my name is Dr. Sean Branham. We're here at Premier Healthcare. I'm here with Kelly Young. Kelly is a Crohn's patient that has been in our office for a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. We're gonna kind of tell you Kelly's story today and what's happened with her under care in this office. So I'm gonna let Kelly start off and talk about her journey with Crohn's disease for the past 32 years. Take it away, Kelly.
Thank you, Sean.
And tell us about a little bit about yourself first, like personal, what do you do and stuff?
My name is Kelly Young. I am a business owner. I'm an insurance agent in Kirkwood, Missouri, and I've had my own business for 26 years. I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 19 years old. So if you think about that, every year but one of my adult years has been spent with the diagnosis of Crohn's disease. I've had multiple resections of my colon. I've had 3 major colon resections. The 4th colon resection would have cost me an ileostomy. And I've had my gallbladder removed, my appendix removed. It's been one wild journey of 31 years. Throw in a couple kids, a marriage, and a divorce, and that's my history.
Yep. So talk a little bit now about your Crohn's in the early years. What was that like on a daily basis for you? What was a typical day?
A typical day for me would be getting through just a regular 8-hour day and then spending the evening hours recuperating to basically start my 8 hours over again. So most people get a 24-hour day. I was pretty much muddling my way through 8 hours of my 24-hour day. I mean, granted, you're sleeping for 8 of those hours, so basically I was losing 8 hours that you had, right? Most people are up for 16 hours. I was up enough to go to work, run my business, take care of my kids, go home, go to sleep, and then you throw in the inconvenience of maybe 15 to 20 bowel movements. So it does keep you grounded. It keeps you near a facility, which then changes your social life. Mm-hmm. So I've spent a lot of my life indoors because of the inability to be comfortably away from a bathroom.
So 15 to 20 bowel movements a day.
A day.
And those were formed normal movements?
Have not had a solid bowel movement since I was 19 years old, with the exception of these last couple of years. They haven't been solid the last couple of years, but they are leaps and bounds a whole lot better than what they were before. But yeah, February 15th celebrated our 2-year anniversary.
Okay.
And in these 2 years, the beginning years were a lot of learning. I have known Dr. Branham, embarrassingly, for 25 years, yep. And Dr. Branham has been asking me for 17 of those years, I can help you with this, I can help you with this. But my mind was so focused on conventional medicine, I was too scared to try something new because of the next surgery being an ileostomy. I felt like I already had used all of my get out of jail free cards, and to take a risk to not, go to conventional medicine was a huge deal. But on the flip side, when I'm 51, so a few months before my 50th birthday, I just told myself, I'm not living the second half of my life the way I lived the first half of my life. Right. This is 60% of my living years have been diagnosed with this disease, but every year of my adult life, except for my first year, my 18th year, I've been chronically ill.
Right.
And now it's just, I don't even know what to do with myself now. It's endless.
So talk a little bit about, you said 15 to 20 bouts of diarrhea a day. Talk about a normal day for you. Were you like, did you have tons of energy? Did you have lots of pain? What was a normal day? I want you to go back. A
normal day would be waking up, opening your eyes, not even getting out of bed, just opening your eyes and feeling like an invisible black bear is just punching you in the gut. So I would sit there for 20 minutes, let the digestive system calm itself down, get up, start my bowel movement routine. So you go to the bathroom before the shower, you go to the bathroom after the shower, you go to the bathroom before you leave the house. So it would take an extra 30, 40 minutes in the morning for me to allot for the inconvenience, or I didn't realize it was an inconvenience because it was my normal.
Right.
It was totally my normal. But most women don't take an hour and 45 minutes to get ready in the morning. Right? So I would go to work, do my thing, sticky notes everywhere, could not remember anything, really leaned on my team to help navigate me through my business, right?
Fear of eating while you were at work?
No, just memory. My memory was gone.
Right. And did you have a fear of eating because of your bathroom habits?
I would not eat during the day. Yep. I would not eat if I had a client appointment. I would plan my eating around my day. Now, my day is planned around my eating. And then
so your Crohn's ruled your whole life, essentially.
My whole marketing strategy at my business was tied to when I was going to get my biologic infusion. Right. So if I was on a 6-week regimen, I would have to take off. I would schedule a week out of the office, 3 days before the biologic infusion or injection, and then 3 days after, because your body has side effects to them, right? So you're tired, you're fatigued, you have body aches, headaches, migraines. So there would be literally 1 week out of every 6 weeks I was missing work. My team knew that.
The whole week?
The whole week.
Not including the time you missed just from feeling sick.
Correct.
And so in a month, how many days did you miss, on average, would you say, from just being sick from your Crohn's?
In a month, I would say a full week, a full 5 days.
Full 5 days.
So every 4 weeks, I was missing.
So your productivity was maybe 60, 70%.
Correct. My business would be it would be much larger had I had the capability of doing that, right? I would say based on the deck of cards that have been dealt with me, I've run a fantastic business. I've grown it bigger than most people that have normal, right? What's normal these days, right?
For what?
Just anybody, what's normal?
Sure.
Right? And so that I thought was my normal.
Right.
And I thought that's as good as it's going to get.
Right.
Right? As long as we can get this scheduled, we'll be totally fine.
So lost time from work, pain, frequent trips to the bathroom. What other things were part of your normal daily routine in the infancy stages of your Crohn's? What other things?
Well, if you want to get into the emotional part of it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you've got the weighing. 100 pounds was my fighting weight. So you're automatically judged because you're thinner in stature.
Yeah.
So you've got that. You look fine on the outside, but as a woman.
What do you mean you're sick? You look
right.
fine. Right.
People would say, "Wow, I can't believe you can eat that and look that thin." And it's like, well, if you only knew, right? Then you get into relationships. Right. I can't say that my marriage was failed because of this disease, but I can tell you that this disease made being in a relationship much more difficult, right? My kids, I have my son, when he was 12, he got diagnosed with empathy pains. So when he was with me, he would get physically ill. And then when he would go back to his dad's, he would be totally fine. And it took us a year of partnering him with a GI doctor because I thought my kid had Crohn's disease. Right. But it was him seeing me sick that gave him this empathy pain, and then he would just take that on. But he didn't grow for 2 years. I mean, who would have ever told me that one day when you become a mother, you need to watch for these signs, right? I thought I was hiding it. I thought I was doing a really, really good job of hiding it for my kids. So there's not just the physical part of it, the emotional part of it, but everything together as a whole, right? But it's my journey. Right,
and that's good. And so what else can you tell us about the first 20, 30 years of your Crohn's disease that maybe other Crohn's or digestive patients can relate to? What do you remember about it? What was tough about it?
What was tough was I didn't have the computer, so I had to go to the library and get it on microfiche, right? Now, today, there's so much stuff at your fingertips. But the toughest part was doing it alone.
Right.
And not having, like, my parents didn't know what to do. My mom took me to the doctor. You know, they were there for every surgery. But really, everybody was in their own lives. And so I was handed this disease at 19, and I didn't know how to find people to help navigate through it.
Right.
You know, I was raised to hide it.
Right.
Don't tell anybody your problems, because that's a weakness.
Right.
And so I hid it for so long. I mean, my family knew, right? But you don't talk outside of that.
Right.
But I would say in the last 10 years of being more vocal, it's made people understand me better.
Right.
Not that they're giving me sympathy. I don't need sympathy, and I don't need pity.
Right.
I just need you to understand me for my differences.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so don't invite me to a Mexican restaurant. And don't be mad at me if I eat before I meet you at the Mexican restaurant. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy.
So in the early stages of your Crohn's, what were your doctors telling you? What to expect? What were your medical doctors telling you about? Take this medication. How did they expect you to improve? What were you finding out in the first 10 years?
What I was finding out is with an autoimmune disease, your body will grow antibodies toward these biologics. So every 18 months, like right when I would get on a good pattern of taking the medication, my body would sort of, I guess, reject it or build up antibodies. So I was constantly changing biologics, and then that particular biologic needed to be paired with another medication. So sometimes that B medication was the same no matter what the biologic was. So you're just constantly juggling your normal day and then filling your prescriptions and making sure, learning how to give myself a shot, right? That was a big deal. I know there's diabetics out there, but who, and an $18,000 shot. These aren't just, these are $18,000 injections that I'm putting in my own belly.
So Remicade, Stelara,
Entyvio, Humira.
Humira, I was going to say Humira. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So you went through the whole range of all of them, essentially.
I was 18 months. My body was failing the medication 18 months before the next medication was being developed.
Yep.
So when I came to you, I was at that mark of, okay, well,
what do we do next?
Do we get put on steroids and put lipstick on a pig?
Right.
Or do we go a different route? Right? And so it was the perfect storm.
Good. So let's talk about how that all came about. You are a board member of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
I partnered with the board of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation about 10, 12 years ago, more selfishly because I wanted to learn more about my disease.
Yep. I have other friends who are on the board. At one point, I was invited to sit in on a meeting and join the board. I did sit in on some meetings. I found that mainly what they were talking about was drug research.
Correct.
Which was not my avenue.
Right.
So talk about the conversation you and I had after we got off of that WebEx meeting or whatever meeting it was, the virtual meeting.
Yeah, it was a board meeting that we were inviting you to come to, and my whole life has been taking medication, so I didn't see the focus of it being purely medication until you mentioned it to me. But a lot has changed in those last 2 years. I'm hopeful that you and I can create a little bit of a different narrative, that there is other things to treat these chronic diseases with other than medication, right? I don't want to dog another agent or another doctor or anything like that. But after having dealt with it for as many years as I have, and heard they can't find a cause, therefore they can't find a cure because they don't know a cause. But I think that this disease is purely environmental. Maybe a little genetics, maybe like reflux or something like that, but
yeah, there's always a genetic link, but 95% It's developmental, it's environmental, and we do know what the triggers are for autoimmunity, so we do know that.
Right.
But I saw that their main focus was drugs, and that's not something that I deal in. So I got off the meeting and I called Kelly personally and said, hey, Kelly, you know I've told you this for 18 years. I can help you with this. As soon as you're ready to get started with that, we can do this quietly. We'll then go back and we'll show the board the results afterwards, and then they can decide whether they want to pursue this or not.
Right.
Right? So you decided that...
Here we are, quietly having completed our second full year.
Yep.
And, you know, you always said, you just wait, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But you just don't ever think of it happening. Yes, my whole digestive system is pretty much healed, right?
Yep.
Now, when I eat a bag of cotton candy at the baseball game, that doesn't agree with me. But, you know, so I still do deviate a little bit. But I pay for it later, right?
Yep.
It's not like you have to eliminate all this bad stuff out of your life. You still do get some vices, right? You just have to understand the consequences that come with it.
Exactly.
Right?
You have to understand the consequences that come with decision making. Exactly right.
Correct.
Yep.
I went to, so my GI doctor was really hesitant about supporting me through this journey. And I can say, thankfully, he's been my pretty much only GI doctor. Reluctantly, he has supported me through this. And last year, he said, fine, I'll support you through this, but we have to have 3 colonoscopies in 12 months. So all 3 colonoscopies were the same, if not a little better, right? There is still a little bit of like scar tissue in there, but that's gonna stay in there.
Yeah. So we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Let's talk about what did we actually do in this office. So when you started here, what was the first step in what we did? Do you remember?
I do. It was the cleanse.
It was testing first, actually.
Oh, it was testing. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
So we
It's
started
been so
off
long.
and we did a huge battery of tests to determine what's actually causing the problem.
Right.
Then when those tests were all sent off, then we started doing a cleanse, which is detoxifying the body, decreasing inflammation, and removing inflammatory foods. Right.
And if you follow the instructions, it should only be 3 weeks. I was on the short plan because it took me about 6 weeks because I couldn't drink the water. It was, but...
So tell us, when you started the cleanse, how long was it before you started to see results?
Well, having not ever drank any water and only sipping on soda, the hardest part was drinking the water. Like, I have to drink 60 ounces of water. I mean, that's like impossible. Now it's like, oh, no big deal. I've already drank 40 today and it's noon. So it was making me change my behavior. Right. So that was the hardest part, was changing the behavior.
Right.
And then going through what the body needed to go through to cleanse. I mean, it's not easy.
Right.
It's not easy.
Never said it was.
After, I mean, I detoxed from sugar. I detoxed from caffeine.
Yep.
I was taking 300 pain pills a month to keep, like, it was being used as a, what do you call it, where to make you not go?
Yeah, it's to
constipate you, right?
To solidify your stool somewhat.
Right.
Yeah, because of the
It was a hard 3 weeks, but within that 5th or 6th week, my migraines were gone. I wasn't as tired. I didn't have pain as long as I didn't eat what was on my inflammatory list.
Right. And I remember you calling me in the 2nd week and saying you had a normal bowel movement, or the most normal one you've had since you were 18.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Good.
It was when it was pulling all the toxins and everything out of me. Right.
Exactly. So you got results pretty quick. So currently, what do you take now as far as your prescription medications?
I have worked my way off of all Crohn's medication.
So no biologics.
No biologics.
No pain medications. No anti-inflammatories.
I have a doctor
no
that's very supportive. Like, we've got, like, it's, it's
Good.
crazy.
So you're completely drug-free.
Completely drug-free.
Good. How much weight have you gained?
I have gained, well, I've stayed pretty consistent, but I was gaining, I kept saying I've gained 18 pounds. I gained 18 pounds in 18 months.
Good.
but now we're 24 months and I'm not gaining anymore, right?
Right.
I'm gaining muscle from now having the capability of working out.
Good.
But but I dropped down. Remember when I first did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing so much weight. This is not the direction I want to go. Like,
and what did I tell you?
We were dipping down like really 90s.
Yeah, we were
90s,
in the low 90s.
I went, yeah. And he's like, don't worry, you'll gain it back. You'll gain it back.
As
and
soon
now
as your gut heals, you'll start gaining
I'm
it back.
118 pounds.
Yep.
Like, that's huge. I know that's not a lot of weight.
Right.
Right? But 100 pounds was my fighting weight.
Right.
I weighed 125 pounds when I was full-blown pregnant on the delivery table, and I weigh 118 pounds without a fetus in my body.
Yep.
118 is a good weight
That's
for
a good
me,
weight for
right?
you. Yeah, it's your ideal weight.
So, yeah.
Good. So talk a little bit now about, in the past, you were doing colonoscopies how often? Was it every quarter?
No, it just depends. You know, when I was having a flare, it was once a year.
Okay.
These last 12 months, I had 3 in 12 months, but that was because my GI doctor was wanting to make sure that we were, you know,
everything was good.
Everything was fine, and
Right.
I'm okay with that, right? I don't want to lose my colon.
Right.
So, I was probably doing more extra testing than I probably really needed to.
Right. Yeah.
But,
and in the past, there was always something they found on the colonoscopy. There was always a problem, right?
Yep.
Inflammation, redness, swelling, polyps.
I've had no polyps.
No polyps.
Mm-mm.
What other types of findings were you finding for the last 30 years on your colonoscopy?
The stricture at the so when
Okay.
they put you back together,
Yep.
the
Scar tissue and
the
the
scar
stricture.
tissue, it'll attack that spot.
Yep.
So the disease was always hitting the spot where
Yep.
they put me back together. So
And that's for the entire last 30 years. And then your last 2 or 3 colonoscopies, what did they find?
we are looking good.
Completely clear.
He's diagnosed. Well, he says I'm disease free, and from what I understand, is I have to be 5 years disease free
Yep.
in order to be clinically in remission. And I am 3.5 years into that 5-year journey. So
Good.
yeah.
Good. Then talk a little bit about, I think probably 3 or 4 months ago, you told me that you thought your eyesight was getting worse. And I told you go see your optometrist or ophthalmologist again. You said, I think my eyesight's getting worse. And what happened at that visit?
So, as we get older, we expect our vision to get worse. But I told him, I was like, I need a new prescription. So he did the test and he goes, well, your vision is better. I'm like, wait, what? He goes, your vision has improved. So I called Dr. Brandon. I was like, oh my gosh, my vision got better. Like, who gets that? That's like a life, it's your report card, right?
Yeah.
It's your overall health. And then...
we see that all the time in our office.
Do you?
All of our patients, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so then February 7th,
Yep.
I went to go get a mammogram. For the last 2 years, they've been checking my left breast for a lump.
Right.
And so since it's like on a diagnostic, I have to get a mammogram done every 6 months, just so they keep an eye on it. And so I went to go get my 4th mammogram in 2 years, and they did the mammogram, then they went and did the ultrasound, and they were taking an extra time on my ultrasound, and the lady that does the ultrasound came back, or left, and then came back, and she goes, well, this is just the weirdest thing. I was like, what's that? I'm thinking, great, now I'm going to get a cancer diagnosis. They spent like 7 minutes trying to look for this thing, and maybe they found more. She goes, it's gone. I was like, what do you mean it's gone? She goes, the lump that we've been looking at for the last 2 years is gone. And then I was like, well, wait a second. Now, I did this thing, like I've changed my whole, new way of life 2 years ago. Do you think that could be with it? She goes, I'm just the technician. It's, and she's like, well, now you're back on a regular annual mammogram that's not coded as diagnostic. So now it will be coded as a well checkup.
Which will be cheaper.
Right? So it'll be less expensive. It won't go toward my deductible.
Right.
So yeah, we've had some...
It's good.
Some huge leaps.
Yeah, big changes, yeah. So talk about your daily routine now, your productivity at work. How has this changed for you?
I would say the biggest change is that all of this that we did was through the pandemic. So I haven't seen a lot of people, but I would say the biggest change is people not knowing what to do with me. I'm a different Kelly. It's like, who is this person, right?
Right.
When your gut hurts all the time, you don't get to talk.
Right.
You sit in the corner, you survive, you get through your day. Now it's like, will she ever shut up? Right? And so trying to take what I was already labeled as frail, you know, we're always going to help Kelly, and poor Kelly. And now it's my business is thriving, my kids are thriving, I'm thriving. I get up, I go to the gym 3 days a week. I'm up at 4:45 3 days a week.
Right.
Never in a million years.
Right.
I mean, I've been labeled as lazy because I couldn't physically get out of bed.
Right.
And I'm still labeled that. Oh, well, Kelly, she's not a morning person. It's like, well, when I was sick, I wasn't a morning person. But how do you tell somebody, well, you know, you don't want to talk about it, but you do. It's like, well, no, 3 years ago, that was true.
Right.
Today, I can now.
4:45 is a morning person.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No
Yeah.
question.
I went to the gym this morning.
Yep. Good. So everything you did here in this office, it was hard work. You know, it requires to do really advanced testing. It requires you to completely overhaul your diet. It requires you to take supplements and shakes and creams based on testing and research. Was it worth it?
It was definitely worth it. I took my kids to Disneyland last year. Granted, again, I was on the slow train because they were 18 and 15.
Yep.
So, but I got to take them there. And it is not the happiest place on the planet for those Disney goers. But we did. We got in the park, out of the park. I didn't visit every bathroom. And that was like a huge win for us. Like, oh my gosh, Mom went into an amusement park. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm now getting to see things clearer, if that makes sense.
Right.
I never knew that I was missing anything until I got to feel this way. And now Kayla, my daughter, is 19.
Right.
She is the age
That
I was diagnosed at.
Right.
So when I see her doing things, it's like, oh my gosh, I've missed out on so much stuff.
Right.
But you don't know what you've missed out on because
You missed it.
you missed it,
Right.
right? And so that's the hard part now, is saying, okay, forget the fact that did I miss out? I don't know, right? But now it's creating those moments and creating those memories and having a work-life balance, right? I mean, there are days where I work my butt off and I don't eat right? But I would say work-life balance has been the key. But I'm also partnering with a bunch of people. So it's learning how to ask for help.
Right.
Not, 31 years, you would think I should know everything about the disease, but I don't. Right? And sometimes I don't want to know.
Right.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss. I don't want to know the side effect of that. The doctor says I need to take it, and I don't care about the side effect.
Right.
This is my only option.
Right.
So now there's another option.
Right.
Right?
What would you say to a Crohn's patient who's been suffering 5 or 10 or 20 years, who's in the medical mindset, taking the biologics, taking everything, and they're improved under that care, but all they know is that life they're living. They don't know what it could be like if it were better. What would you say to them?
I would say no doctor would ever discourage you to start eating a better diet. So pair the two up, right? I didn't just take myself off all my medication. I paired it up.
Yep.
And once I started healing my body from the inside out, I had the courage to say, okay, I'm going to voluntarily remove myself off this medication, because you have a choice. You don't, just because they tell you to take the medication doesn't mean you have to take the medication.
Right.
But don't do it carelessly either.
Correct.
I mean, you have to make certain that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
Well, and it should be done under the supervision of
Yes.
the doctor who prescribed it too.
Right.
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 Right. Yeah. So good. What else would you tell someone else? Closing thoughts here.
I would say the easiest way I can say it is it's difficult being sick, right? and it takes a lot of work being well. So do you choose to be sick or do you choose to be well? And it's a choice. I just didn't know that there was a choice, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's an expense tied to this, right?
Sure.
But there's also an expense tied to being sick and co-pays and deductibles and
Loss of income.
Loss of income. So the money that I was spending on health insurance deductibles and co-pays is now shifted over to eating safer foods, right?
Eating healthy foods.
Healthy foods.
Prevention and wellness.
Prevention
not
and wellness.
Treatment of disease. Exactly
Yeah.
right. No, that's perfect. You've done great here. I mean,
Thank you.
Everybody stumbles.
It's been fun.
Everybody stumbles a little bit here and
Yeah.
there. That's part of the learning process,
Right.
right? But it's incredible the types of results that you've got. And it's cool to see you be able to do things that you haven't done your whole life, essentially.
Right.
And to see your relationships with your kids get better and everything.
And I can't thank you enough because my life would still be back there.
Yep.
Like I would not so thank you for doing what you do.
My
because
pleasure.
I hope that this encourages people just to even call you because you'll give a free consultation.
Right.
You don't bite. I mean, it's just
This is the fun part for me is seeing the change in people.
yeah.
You know, doing the day-to-day stuff is part of it, but this is the fun part for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for letting me share my journey, and I welcome anybody if they have any questions.
Perfect timing.
Oh.
I was just going to say I have a few questions.
Yes.
So what have been the biggest changes you've had to make, like practically, like in terms of different ways of eating? Are there foods that you love that you had to stop eating? Like what like actual changes did you have to make?
So after we got all of our testing back, your the MRT test will tell you what your inflammatories are. So I removed all of my inflammatories. And
For
then,
example, give us a couple.
for example,
Things you wouldn't think
caffeine,
of. Yep.
vanilla,
What about
cinnamon,
health-
cashew,
Yes.
trout,
Yes.
blue dye number 2, red
Maybe
dye number 3,
healthy foods
eggs.
even, right?
You know how
Eggs.
much stuff eggs
Eggs.
is in?
Eggs.
Yes.
More.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, it's not easy.
Right.
This is not an easy journey, but I tell you one thing, it's a whole lot easier than it was being sick.
Right.
So you just have a choice.
Right. And that's
Right.
the quote I always love from you is it's not hard being, or it's not easy being healthy, but it's also hard being sick. So
Right.
which hard do you want?
Right.
Right?
Do we have another question?
So yeah, I have two more. What's been the hardest part for you?
The hardest part is changing everything. And
Everything's
then
been the hardest
yeah,
part.
I mean my kids had to change. I
Yeah.
mean this was like you don't just come in here and see Dr. Branham. You bring a support system. So for 12 weeks I had 4 support people with me,
Yep.
and then they made me accountable. Now my kids were 2 of my support people, and when they were ripping food out of my hand, I was like, "That's not how we're going to support mom." So there was some learning and coaching throughout the
Sure.
process. But they know now why we can't have the food. Lemon,
Right.
Yeah.
lemon, I can't have lemon.
Yeah.
Right.
So they now
That was
can.
the biggest thing. I'm
yeah.
sorry, I didn't
No.
no. you about me, but just for me, it was I would have never been able to pinpoint my food sensitivities because it was all healthy foods I was eating when I
Right.
was trying to be healthy. It was broccoli and carrots and things that I would have never been able to find that
Right.
by process of elimination.
Right.
And did you think how you felt was normal when before you found him? Like what was normal to you? Did you think in the moment that was normal, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, now
So
looking back?
before a year before I partnered with Dr. Branham, I was down. Like I was doing fantastic. Like I really honestly thought that 1 week, every 6 weeks off of work was a win. You
Best
know,
she's ever done. She told me that. In fact, the call after we got off the meeting, she told me that her doctor said she was in remission. And I asked her literally, quote, "What does remission mean for you?"
Right.
And she said, "Well, I still, instead of having 20 bouts of diarrhea, I have 15. And I don't miss, 5 days a month of work. I miss 3. And so for her, that's the best she's done.
Mm-hmm.
But it still was not normal. And I told her, I said, "Kelly, that's not normal."
But it felt like I was already like
already a
I
win.
didn't. I was like because you kept saying
Right.
I can help you. I can help you. I can help you. So yeah, I was already on that journey, but now this clinched it.
Did you ever expect to be where you are today? before you started this program? Did you ever expect to get the results that you got?
Nope, never, ever, ever did I expect to have actually my foot in Disneyland. I know that sounds stupid. Football players get to go to Disneyland when they win the Super Bowl, right? Why can't a mom take her kids to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, no, I just got used to being just inconvenient. I was an inconvenience to people.
Body.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had to plan trips around.
But I put a good show on. My mom says I could win an Oscar, so I put on a good show and still managed to have 2 kids and run a business. And I mean, I got a pretty cool story now. Back 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought it was a cool story, but yeah, life is good.
Good. Other questions?
That's all the questions. I guess the only other thing is, Dr. B, what would next steps be for someone who might be feeling like Kelly felt?
So if you have a digestive issue or if you have Crohn's disease, your normal is your normal. So you don't think anything's wrong, but you can feel better and you can feel much better. So your first step is the easiest step, and that is to call our office at 314-647-1384 and set up a free consultation where we will bring you into the office and spend about an hour explaining to you what are you dealing with, how do we address it, and then from there you can decide if this sounds like something that would be a good fit for you. If it's not, that's it, you're done.
But you will also, he's not just going to take you as a patient.
No.
So he doesn't just if he thinks you're not ready, he won't. He'll ask you to come back.
We turn away more patients than we take. This program's not for everyone. It's not easy, just like Kelly said. It's going to require specific dietary changes. It's going to require strict adherence to that diet. It's going to require taking nutritional supplements based on testing and research. And this is not for everyone. Not everyone, it's not right for everyone. And we will find out if it's right for you or not. But if it's not, we won't accept you as a patient. So we take only the most motivated patients here because we know what it takes to succeed in this program, okay? And we are interested in only telling stories like Kelly's because we want everyone to have the same success. Yep. So I would call the office and schedule a consultation. It's free. What have you got to lose? And Kelly, what's the answer? What have you got to lose there? Pain, diarrhea, loss of relationships. I mean, the list goes on and on. The real thing is what you have to lose is disease.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for your time. And if you have additional questions, contact us at the office.
Thank you.